Welcome back to Stone Post Outdoors, where I'm finally breaking ground on the pond on my family's 75 acres. This is the first video of many of building the pond. So as you can tell, this pond's right in between the two tree rows here, kind of on the southwest corner of the homestead area. My goal for this pond is just to be a fun place for the family to come and fish and hang out. So the goal is to obviously have lots of fish, make it fun, easy to catch fish. Right now I'm looking at a hybrid sunfish, which is a cross between a male bluegill and a female green sunfish. There's a couple different ways that you can acquire these hybrid sunfish. You can either go out and catch your bluegill and sunfish and just put those two in the pond, making sure that obviously you only have the male bluegill and female green sunfish. Or you can find a hatchery, someone who sells fish, and buy them. Out here in western Kansas, it's pretty hard to find a fish hatchery, so if you know any fish hatcheries, link them down in the comments. I also have to add some kind of predatory fish just to keep the sunfish numbers in check. Eat kind of the smaller ones and then make the bigger ones have to survive. So obviously largemouth bass are kind of the main fish that everybody puts in their ponds. I'd like to be a little bit different and either add wipers, which are a cross between striped bass and white bass and are pretty common here in Kansas. They're a hybrid, so they don't reproduce. So they're really a good option for a small pond like this. Also, just plain old white bass are really common. They'll get a little bit bigger than largemouth, so they're kind of a fun thing to add to the pond. Sawguy slash walleye hybrids. Um, they usually don't do real great in ponds, but it would be fun to maybe experiment. I know a couple people who have tried putting walleye and sawguy in their ponds, and they seem to do all right, but I'd like to try that maybe. Walleye fishing is really fun. I enjoy doing that, as you've seen in previous videos, so I think it'd be fun to add something a little bit different like that to the pond. I'm also planning on adding a solar powered aerator to the pond to help with oxygen levels and hopefully prevent any wintertime fish kills. I'm also going to build a dock, probably right there in the middle of the frame where you can see kind of up against the trees there. There'll be some cattails, lily pads, some kind of vegetation, American pondweed. We'll have to acquire some of that somehow and put that in the pond just to help filter everything, make everything look good and natural. Speaking of plants, these two cedar trees that are in the background there are right in the edge of where the pond's going to go. So right here I am digging them out and going to transplant them over there. It's really dry. We haven't had any real rain for I think 8 months now. So I don't think these trees are going to make it, but we're going to try. I'm going to get them watered in. We'll see what happens. They might surprise us and they might survive. If they don't, there's a bunch more cedar trees growing around the property that need to be dug up anyway, so those will be a good option to put in there and transplant those over there. And I really want to add more to that tree row and kind of come all the way around to the south just to protect the pond. Right here, I'm just using the skid steer to do a little bit of landscaping around these trees, kind of backfill them a little bit, smooth everything up, and get everything looking pretty. Now that those trees are out of the way, I can bring the pond out to its final width, which is 60 feet. We just measured it tonight, and it's actually 71, I believe, with all the way across the bottom and everything. So that'll work about perfect for the liner. I've got some like grain bags, or the big white tubes that sometimes you'll see people put grain or silage in them. I got some of those and I'm going to use that as my subliner, and then I'm going to get a tarp because that was way cheaper than an actual pond liner. That will be my liner, and then I'm going to cover that tarp with more of those grain bags to protect it. There'll be rocks around the edges, and I want to do like a beach, like a sandy beach on the two longer ends, but we'll see. I know the sand's going to wash away, so we might have to do something different and just put in rocks, but we'll see what happens in the future. So far, the scraper's been working really good, especially on the topsoil. In that harder, more compacted dirt, it really scrapes up nice. But as I'm getting down into the softer dirt, it's starting to just powder out on me. And scrapers don't really work without having some kind of structure to the dirt. So I'm having to take multiple passes before I even get a handful in the scraper. And I started using the bucket of the tractor there just to help get some dirt out, trying to be more efficient, and also making a divot where the scraper could dig in a little bit more and cut out some more dirt with each pass. I've got some stumps and bricks and tree branches. All of those will make really great fish habitat. So once we get the pond all dug and the liners put in, I'll make another video of putting in that fish habitat. But that's enough for me for now. So here's some video of digging without me ruining it by talking. Into day 2, in the deepest spot here. We're probably at like 7 foot, maybe 6 foot, somewhere in there. The dirt's getting a little too powdery for the scraper, so I think I'm gonna have to unhook the scraper and just start digging it with the bucket of the tractor. It's definitely starting to look a lot more like a pond instead of just a flat spot. I can picture the dock and water in here. So I got it finally dug down to about 10 feet there. So now I just need to hook back onto the scraper, kind of smooth out my ridges there so that the liner will be nice and flat, have a nice flat spot to lay. I'll have to come back in with like a rake or something and do a little bit of final touches, but it ended up being about 8 feet deep. I might come in later with the skid steer and dig that down more closer to 10 feet. That was really my goal, but it was just getting so powdery that the scraper wasn't being effective anymore, and I was starting to feel bad for the neighbors on making this big dust storm. We've got good chances of rain next week, so hopefully we can catch some rain, kind of knock that powder down, firm up the dirt a little bit, and I can come back and dig it down a little bit further. The last step here is just cleaning up the edges with the skid steer. When the scraper comes out, it usually leaves a little pile of dirt, and after all this digging, my edges were big old mounds of dirt, so just coming back and cleaning up that powdery mess. Using the skid steer to kind of smooth out the edges. Like I said at the beginning, this is going to be the first video in a series of a whole bunch of videos on this pond. The next thing is getting the liner installed and then getting the pond filled up. So be sure to click that subscribe button. I'd love to see you guys stick around and watch this whole series. I'd love for you guys to comment later on and help make decisions on this pond. Like I said, what kind of fish we should put in here. If you guys have a pond of your own, if you have any helpful advice, that'd be great too. I appreciate you guys tuning in every week, and I'm excited to show you guys the experience of this pond, all the ups and downs that I'm sure are going to come along with it. Well, there's the finished product. I need to measure to be sure, but I think I'm at 10 foot there in the middle. Edges are all smoothed out fairly well. I'm kind of surprised that I got a circle-ish pattern to it, but I think it turned out pretty good.